Hey y'all, so I was inspired by another Facebook post by one of my Facebook friends, and it led me to ask the question, should women be more selfish? Should they be more selfish? And I'll just read the post that she posted. So men are basically Satan. I've seen this for myself. I've known Black women with breast cancer or heart issues, and their husbands won't so much as drive them to the doctor. They have to depend on friends or the state to get chemo or get nursing care. Meanwhile, men cheat and treat their wives like crap and still get waited on hand and foot when they get terminally ill. Not I, said the cat. And the most interesting case to me, though, is the woman in the comments who had the disease and all her symptoms cleared when her man left. A lot of times it's not the disease, it's the stress of these men that are making you sick. Do you know how many cancer patients and survivors I know who are widowed now and much better off health-wise? Even when they have flare-ups or don't stay in remission, the lack of stress, being able to care for themselves ensures they heal so much faster. Okay. All right. So let's get into some of the specific threads that she's highlighting in this post. My sister had stage 4 cancer and her ex-husband complained about her not doing her part to clean up. I will never forget that for as long as I live. Yikes. Okay. This is from, I guess, a Twitter user. Okay, another woman says, we were engaged. He was the only man I ever wanted to marry. I had a miscarriage while he was away. When he came back that weekend, he wanted sex. 20 years later, he still chooses to believe I left him for another man. He's never wrapped his mind around how he fell short. Very, very selfish. Wow. I don't know how I would react to that. Another woman says, I was in a horrendous car accident once and all my ribs and clavicles were broken, my sternum cracked, and I can only lay on one side for a long time, and my ex would complain and say, ugh, I'm so annoyed of your stupid bones. We always have to lay this way. So I broke up with him. Good for her. Unfortunately, a lot of women would just let that slide. Okay. So another woman says, yep, there is data on this. Meanwhile, with small things like diet change, example, the man has to start eating low sodium, the whole house shifts to encourage him. If it's the woman, 2 sets of meals are cooked, often by her, hers, and what everyone else will eat. No encouragement. And this woman seems to be from Kenya. So this is like a global phenomenon of men being super selfish. Oh gosh. Okay, so another woman says, been there, had the preventative mastectomy. And mine assumed I was having sex with someone else because I was neglecting his needs. Came in the door one day from work and said, you've been here all day and didn't cook dinner for me? With a straight face. Oh my goodness. A woman says, wow, I knew someone who had a hysterectomy because she had uterine cancer. Her fiance wanted to end it because he thought she was having sex with someone else. Whenever she denied him, really it used to hurt her because of all the scar tissue. And this lady says, some of them don't care that you're in pain and some of them get off on it. Truly horrible monsters are walking around wearing people suits in this world. Another woman says, still have chronic kidney disease and my ex would always get mad at me for being sick and unable to clean. The kicker, a week after I kicked him out, the symptoms disappeared for good. Okay, so this is the example my friend was talking about when she states that it's usually not, sometimes it's not even a disease, it's the stress the men are giving. Another one says, I asked my husband to take me to the ER because I had irregular heartbeat and felt absolutely awful. He refused. I ended up on the cardiac floor in Boston. A virus attacked my heart. He never visited and he wonders why I divorced him. Oh, these examples hurt. And another one says, I had to call in Uber to take me to the ER once when I had a kidney stone. It was snowing, so the driver had to cancel, and I ended up having to drive myself with the seat reclined, puking out of the window and praying the whole way. That was the final straw. Another woman says, my mother was hospitalized for a very serious heart condition for months. Her long-term boyfriend dumped her while she was hooked to the tubes in the ICU. He said he was too young to be dealing with someone who was so sick. He was 50. No, this is horrible. Oh, and she says, and there's more. He actually broke up with her through text message. Wonderful. Okay, now this one. My father-in-law sat at the kitchen table reading his paper while his wife was in her last week dying of cancer and asked my husband, who was doing all the care for for her. When is she getting better? I need a sandwich. I wanted to leap across the table and strangle him. My gosh. This woman is dying and all he can think about is a sandwich. Okay. So I think this is enough. This is enough. All of those examples are very disturbing. And I guess, you know, after taking a look at these testimonials from women across the world, express their disgust and their disappointment and their sadness around how selfish the men in their lives can be, you'd understand why this post inspired me to ask the question, well, should women be more selfish? And I've noticed that there has been a pretty strong wave of women, particularly on YouTube and Facebook, who you know, are hypergamous, putting themselves first, looking for providers and protectors, simply because they understand the difference between male nature and female nature. And I've heard a lot that women are too sweet, they're naturally nurturing, this, that, and the third. While on the other hand, men are predators and aggressive and violent. And while those are blanket statements, right? You can't say all women are nurturing and kind and sweet, and you can't say all men are violent and aggressive, right? But these generalizations are pretty safe when we look at men as a whole and women as a whole, right? I think it has to do with testosterone. I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but I just have a feeling that the level of testosterone someone has in their body really will determine a lot of their behavior and their tendencies. But should women be more selfish? And I think this post is super insightful. And while I'd love to be idealistic and say, no, you know, we should all be altruists and we should all act for the good of the community. I think what would reverse, while I wanna adhere to this ideology of like, oh yes, you know, we should all just be nice and kind and selfless. I can't help but acknowledge that when vulnerable populations, suppressed populations, oppressed populations, subjugated populations, marginalized populations, when these groups of people begin to stop taking the SHIT from the groups of people, from the aggressive groups of people who are the ones usually driving their marginalization, driving their subjugation, driving their suppression, things get better overall. So yeah, I think women should definitely start putting themselves first, considering that there are so many testimonials or, you know, testimonies of women expressing their experience with extremely selfish men, but a lot of men, you know, there aren't many men doing the same thing, talking about, oh, these women are just so selfish, they'll leave you, blah blah blah. Actually, you know what, that's not super true. There are men who have stories like that, but these men are usually pretty old, and the women that they deal with are fairly young, and you know what that is. So, but I think all in all, us women, we gotta do better. We have to see what's really out here in regards to our chances of survival and what we need to do. And, you know, we can do a lot more now as women, particularly in Western countries. Women aren't barred from owning property anymore. Women aren't barred from opening up their own bank accounts. Women don't need to be married to buy a home anymore. Well, in the United States and a lot of other Western countries. So I think you should take advantage of these advances. and prep. You know, look out for ourselves and think about our own futures, because apparently a lot of the men that we will be marrying, or if we get married at all, really won't be doing that for us. So yeah, what do you guys think? Should women be more selfish? This is a very thought-provoking thread, and I felt like I learned a lot, and I will be keeping this in the back of my mind and making the decisions about how selfish I'm gonna be, you know, as situations and circumstances present themselves to me in my life. With that said, I'm gonna sign out, and let me know what you think. Please like, subscribe, and share, and leave a comment with your thoughts. Okay? All right. See you later. Bye.